If you are a collector, aficionado, lover of traditional pocket knives, prepare to be stunned. Yeah, this is episode 16.0 of Rob and Steve's Traditional Knives Anthology, and this one is special. Stick with me, guys, and we'll take a look at it. Hi gang, Rob here. It's the evening of 9 July 2015, and here we go, episode 16.0 of the Traditional Knives Anthology with yours truly, Rob, from the TheApostleP channel, history and copy by Steve of Howabouthetruth. And let's take a look at what we got, shall we? Well, first of all, we have a Great Eastern Cutlery shipping tube. Obviously, the knife we're going to look at tonight is in Northfield unexcelled trim, which means fancy finishing and 1095 tool steel. The model is the 563311. So it is the number 56 pattern. Blade shape 3. We'll get into what that is as we go on. With 3 blades made in the year 2011, and it is in burnt stag, serial number 8, I believe, of 25. The knife comes with a certificate of authenticity, given the data on the knife, and it is 8 of 25, signed by our friend Christine Tucker. What a sweetheart she is, and the backbone of Great Eastern Cutlery. And here's the knife. Oh, guys, the camera will not do this justice. The relief, the character of these stag covers, truly amazing. Amazing. I'm going to set it down here just for a few minutes on the table and zoom you in so you can drool while I read Steve's history lesson. We are looking at the number 56 Weaver Jack in burnt stag. And Steve says, "Hello everyone, thanks for stopping in. Today we're looking at the 563311 Weaver Jack in burnt sambar stag. This may not be a pattern that suits everyone, but for many, especially those who work in any number of certain trades or skills, it would certainly be most appreciated. Built off the number 57 reverse dogleg frame, and you guys will remember we've seen that in a Whittler pattern, and Billy Howard in our plant tour had one of the 57 courthouse Whittlers, I believe they called it, in his pocket, and he demoed a lot of the features of Great Eastern Cutlery with that knife. It is a compact and ergonomic package that was very popular back in the day, particularly in the textile industry, thus the name Weaver Jack. Great Eastern Cutlery made this pattern only in the year 2011 and offered the choice of 3 configurations. All 3 are still known as a Weaver Jack because no matter if it's If it is a single, double, or triple bladed version such as this, they all come with this specialized blade, which is a hybrid of the sheepsfoot and hawkbill. Just take a look. At that stunning implement of cutlery. Oh, wow. Both of these blade styles, the sheepsfoot and hawkbill, were the true workhorses of all blade shapes outside of the sportsman knives for skinning and processing game. Several variations of this pattern were heavily relied upon in the textile mills and other factories throughout the Industrial Revolution. As a matter of fact, no factory could produce or operate without these knives, and every worker, no matter what position they held, carried and used these medium, small knives every working day of their lives. Talk about a knife with a pedigree in history. And I gotta stop. I believe most working men in a textile factory, let's say in 1880, I don't believe their work knife looked quite like this. Do you think? With the beautiful lined nickel silver bolsters, beautifully matched stag covers, highly polished blades. I would imagine they were a little more humble than this one. Okay. The sheepsfoot blade in particular, Steve continues, is the most widely used blade on a job site. Just look at the common utility knife shape and replaceable blades that utility knives have. They pretty much resemble that blade shape, especially if it were a sheepsfoot without the inside curve. Bear in mind that this pattern is made for those in need of a sheepsfoot blade quite frequently, although it makes a practical EDC. In my opinion, when using one of the other blades, which would only be for a small task, the closed sheepsfoot really isn't as uncomfortable as some of you may think. So what Steve's talking about here, let's just stop, is this. With that sheepsfoot or sheepsbill hawkfoot closed, and then using, let's say, the secondary clip, you would think this would be very uncomfortable in hand. But look at where it falls. The pinky falls over the end of the blade. This peak falls really in between the ring and pinky. And the fingers that are going to be applying any pressure, the index and middle fingers, actually nestle quite comfortably. I am squeezing this knife hard right now, and I have not a hot spot, which is kind of cool. Very ingenious. This 56 and even the 57 pattern of handle is so ergonomic, and they got the length so right in that hawkbill, hawkfoot, sheepsbill, that with either one of the secondary blades, it just works, and you wouldn't expect it to when you look at it. So the pinch grip, and especially a saber grip, your index finger is right at home, Steve said. And now when using the main sheepsfoot, I also find the knife to be very comfortable in hand. And there's a pinch, there's a saber, and I don't feel, the corner of this tang on the clip blade. Plenty of room for the index finger to slide into that ricasso. And of course in a pinch grip that doesn't come into play at all, which is really how you'd employ that blade in draw cuts. I totally agree with you, Steve. For back cuts, This reverse dog leg's hard to beat. By back cut, this is what Steve means. Knife lying, blades up in the hand, thumb against that ricasso, and more draw cuts. He's right. Oh man, that feels good. Feels great. He says just plant your thumb against the choil of either of the larger blades and one can truly appreciate this shape. This knife is also quite beautiful, Steve says, and will cause just about anyone to say, let me have a look at that. Personally, I think it's just an all-around fun knife for EDC or collecting. And see how many of your friends have one. Not likely. This 3-blade version in particular allowed Bill Howard and his gang to really flex their muscles, and don't we really like to see it when they do that, guys? You know, this is the same sort of statement knife, although completely different, as the 2015 number 38 Grindling Whittler. It's like, you know, who else could do this knife well besides Bill Howard and the gang at GEC? Well, rhetorical question. The answer, no one. And back to Steve. Very few multi-bladed patterns are built with such precision and close tolerances. I say that from experience, as I now own somewhere close to 220 traditional folders. Actually, this text was written in February. The sickness has continued for Steve. He's over 230 now. Okay, he says, I know I'm sick, but life is so much more enjoyable when you're debt-free. LOL. This knife has 9 layers and 8 seams. Okay, 9 layers and 8 seams. Can we see them? Cover, brass liner. Cover, brass liner. Back spring, brass liner, back spring, brass liner, back spring, brass liner, cover. 9. And let's run our thumb across all 9 layers, all 8 seams, and none of them are detectable. I would say that Rob and Dick, or whoever colored the spine of this handle at the factory in Titusville, Pennsylvania, did some pretty fine work here. Man. I don't know if it's practical for Rob to show you on camera, Steve says, but I know he can attest to opening all 3 blades, and not one glint of light can be seen through the bottom of this knife. So I don't know if we can do this or not. Let's see here. I'm going to try not to cut myself. No half stop. I'm going to have to do this the Mike Latham way, with my pad of my thumb on the cutting edge. I'm going to pause and hold this up to a light you can't see and look for what Steve's talking about. He's right. I don't know if I can pull out a flashlight and have you guys look at this without blinding the camera. Okay, here we go. I've got 130 lumens running along the spine of that knife. He's right. 9 layers, 8 seams, not a gap. I don't know if that was practical, but it's It's true. Now we gotta use the Latham close. Golly. There, all closed. The quality is right up there with the finer custom traditionals, Steve says. Perfectly even backspring ends, too. Even if this pattern doesn't ring your bell, there's no denying the outstanding quality. Let's look at those backspring ends, shall we? He ain't lying. They're beautiful. And each blade perfectly centered in its blade well. GEC made 25 of this 3-blade stag version with serial numbers as well as several other handle options in the Northfield line, and each of these runs had close to 50 more knives made without serial numbers. Oddly enough, only 3 handle options were offered in their Tidiute line for the 3-blade version, and each of those runs were limited to less than 50 knives per handle option. So, interestingly enough, fewer Tidiutes in each configuration than Northfields. All of the single-blade versions have sold out, but there are still some of the 2- and 3-blade versions left among several dealers, and those 2 are down to very few. At 3.5 inches closed, it's a really nice size. 3 handle options that are still available for this 3-blader, other than stag, are the beautiful goldenrod micarta, Bacote wood, and hemlock green jig bone, which is actually a deep red borderlining on sort of a purple. But it's not bright or tacky at all. I plan on buying one more in that hemlock green if it's still around. First timers, please note you'll need a honing rod or special stone that has a compound radiused surface to accommodate the hybrid sheepsfoot. Let's see what Steve's talking about. So here we have that inside curve. So if I'm trying to sharpen that on a flat stone, I'm going to straighten out or round off that tip. It can be done like with the 1-inch stones on an Edge Pro. You just have to very carefully, I'm going to use a sharpening or a polishing tape blank. You have to very carefully pick up the stone and then sort of flatten it back out as you come to a stop. It's difficult to do. I have sharpened hawkbills with my Edge Pro, and I'm getting better at it, but still, you'd be better off with a round rod. I will absolutely agree with that. Steve continues, I don't recall ever seeing one of these 3-bladers on the secondary market, which leads me to believe their original owners refused to part with them. And as a note, as we close Steve's text, if you're wondering, what do you get with a 2-blade version? The one that you lose is the clip. That clip point, very reminiscent of a 57 Whittler clip blade. In fact, it might be the very same blade. I want you to take a look at this machine swedge, or cut swedge. Isn't it beautiful? It's a little different proportion for a clip blade though, with the peak of the clip being at less than 50% of the length of the blade. The long pull maybe looks a little odd. I kind of like it though. I like that really long swedge. Let's take a look at that swedge while we're here. And its symmetry. Very good. Very similar on both sides. Let's take a look at our ricassos. Maybe. Nicely done on the clip. even a little deeper ricasso on the hawkbill. And how'd we do on the rather large pen blade? Usually if GEC falls down in a ricasso, it happens on the pen. Not this one. I like it. Plenty of room to sharpen all the way to the back. How do we do on our transitions? Pretty doggone good. These corners where cover and bolster or end cap meet the edge of the frame. Sometimes not the best area for a GEC. This one's beautiful. Let's kind of take a look at that blade well. See how well finished it is. I know we've already had the knife open, but oh my. Can you guys see that? Just gorgeous in there. You know, it seems a little thick when you look at it. And it is, you know, it's probably 3/4 of an inch thick cover to cover. But in the hand, oh, it's substantial, but not overly chunky. It's very hand-filling in a super comfortable way. Probably takes up a lot of pocket, but you know, if you're a tradesman, if you're a guy working in a textile mill, it can have all the pocket it wants because it's the tool you rely on more than any other. I don't know about you guys, but it kind of makes me want to jump online and go to Gunstock Jacks and TSA Knives and collectorknives.net and see which ones of these are still in stock. I'd kind of like to have one. I mean, isn't it impressive? Oh. Wow. I told you you would enjoy this one. I told you to prepare to be stunned. And I hope you were. That is all for tonight, my friends. Grace to you and peace from God our Father and the Lord Jesus Christ. And remember, the word is sharp.